Very well, my friends. So to continue with the fingers, I'm going to show you just how to do one finger because it's a very repetitive thing and I don't want this video to be like 1 hour long. So the thing with fingers is we need to understand that we cannot again follow the pattern that we have right here. In a traditional glove, if we want a very form-fitting glove, yes, we just cut a U shape around the fingers and we're going to have front and back with the back sew or whatever, and we're going to be able to fit it nicely. In this avatar, we're not going to be able to do that. And I encourage you, try it out, try to do the very simple like U-shaped pattern, and you're going to see that it looks very weird, kind of looks like a sausage. I don't know, it looks horrible. So we're going to be doing a boxy sort of like glove, and instead of, we're going to have the round tip, of course, but instead of having front and back, we're actually going to build the four sides of our element, and this is where it gets a little bit tedious. Now, if we check the element, you're going to see that, I mean, it's not bad. I would like to change the form here a little bit. I feel like it's a little bit too pointy, so I'm actually going to grab all of these points right here. Remember that this is already symmetric with the other element, and we're going to delete them. We needed them just to get an idea, but now we're going to delete them because I want to create the division here, like the proper division for the glove. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Now you can see that we also have that point right there. If you want, you can convert this into a curve point. I actually don't recommend it that much. I'm going to have this as another finger. I feel like that's also going to give it an interesting sort of like handmade effect. Like maybe this guy was building his gloves and they were not made by a tailor, but they look nice. So let's start with this finger actually, because we have the sides here for this one. I'm going to go and create a polygon, or a rectangle rather. We're going to create a rectangle that follows roughly the size of the finger. So as you can see, that's about it. That looks like a nice one. And we're going to position it right here where the finger is. This is, again, the kind of stuff that really takes some time. And that's why I'm only going to record one finger. I want to save you guys the torture of watching me just like move polygons and planes all over the place. So yeah, that's about it. That looks good. Maybe we need to make it a little bit longer. So I'm going to scale it up. That looks a little bit better. Maybe just add a little bit more. There we go. Now, what we need to do is we need to create a little box. So this guy right here, again, if we move it closer to the finger, that encompasses pretty nicely that finger right there. And you can see that this border that we have on the top part, it like nicely goes into that like line right there. I might even like, if I want to make this thing a little bit nicer, I might even just like make the entrance or the cut a little bit different. Now this one, we're going to Control-C, Control-B to copy and paste. And as you can see, this is going to be the back one. I'm going to move the camera here to try to rotate the normal map or the normal information. I'm really not that concerned about normals because later on, we're not going to be doing any sort of like pressure or anything. And later on in the softwares, if we're in Blender and we see that this thing is like rotated or whatever, we're going to be able to move it. There we go. So this is going to be the bottom part right there. Okay. Then, of course, we're going to do another one. But these new ones that I'm going to do, again, Control-C, Control-B, they're going to be thinner. Okay, we don't want to have as much space on this one. So I'm going to make them really, really thin because they're going to be like the barrier or the the support that these things are going to have. And there we go. Like right around there. And we can try to rotate them a little bit there so they fit as nicely as possible. There we go. And then we grab this one up again, Control-C, Control-B. This one's going to be on the other side. So remember that by moving it on the 2D window, it does take that into account a little bit here on the 3D window. There we go. Now, one thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to be like having an issue with the sewing lines and trying to figure out where each sewing line goes. So I'm going to do it over here. I'm going to go here to the segment sewing. We're going to sew from here to here. We're going to sew from here to here. We're going to sew from here to here. And of course, from here to here. Now here, we cannot do free sewing or segment sewing, but we can do free sewing. So I can free sew this point and this point to, this case, it will be, if I'm not mistaken, it's this. Okay, let me cancel that. Let's go over here to free sewing. There we go. So it's going to be this section. This was the original one. But this section right here. Remember, you're always going to see the little point. And ideally, we should see this. Let me see if we are getting it. I'm not sure I can see it. My bad. It was this top part. You can see it right there. So from this point to that point, and from this point to that point. If we have at least one parts of the box like attached to the glove, this should avoid it from falling. So let's take a look. And this is what we get. There we go. So we got this boxy sort of like finger here on the hand. Now, of course, we need to finish like pasting or connecting all of the elements. So for instance, this part right here, again, we're going to go to free sewing. We're going to sew from there to there. And this one's going to continue there to there. Oh, no, sorry. That one's going to go to the little square that we sew. So this one over here should be, if I'm not mistaken, from here. Oh, again, so from here to here. It's going to be from here to here. There we go. So as you can see, that's going to attach itself to that specific part right there. It's going to just like hold a little bit tighter. There we go. Now, we're getting a little bit of a weird pinch there. There we go. It's because of the square. Now, eventually, when we have the other fingers, as you can imagine, there's going to be a V sort of shape here with the other side of the finger over here. Let's go to this part right here. And this bottom part of the finger, this is important. We're not going to attach it to this part. We're going to attach it to this part right there. There we go. Another thing that I forgot, of course, this is quite important, shouldn't have forgotten it, is that we need to increase the resolution on these things, again, something like a 10. So we get a nice overlap and a nice like element right there. Oh, there we go. Now, another thing we can do here, if we don't want to like make this super intense, is we can create another little piece of fabric right here that's gonna like complete this little element right here. Because otherwise, I feel like the stretchiness is gonna be too much. It might not be too much actually. Let's do it. So I'm gonna go here again to free sewing, or over here. Stop the simulation. We're gonna go free sewing, and we're gonna sew now this part right here to. Should be this part right there. Oh no, sorry, it's the other part of the square again. So from this part right here, oh my god, sorry about that, to this part right here. Now you can see that the stitching is flipped. That's fine. We just go to edit sewing, select the stitching, and Control B to flip it out. And now when we simulate, as you can see, this is gonna like complete our sort of like square effect there for our finger. Now, the first thing that I realized or that I noticed is that this is way too long, as you can see right here. But that's fine because that thing or those elements are way easier to modify. If we just grab the segments, edit pattern, and we just grab the segments right here, and we push up, we should be able to find the proper effect. Now, here's the big question: how are we gonna like close this thing up here? Do we add an extra little bit of fabric, or do we connect these two fabrics right here? I honestly think that it's going to be way easier if we just connect another piece of fabric. And I'm personally a fan of square shapes. However, it is possible to just sew this thing to this thing and have this things kind of like pinched together into like a triangle. That's like totally possible. Okay. Another thing would be this shape right here that we added. Instead of it being a square, we can delete one of these points right here. It's going to become a triangle, and it's going to have a very sharp effect on the glove. However, in this case, it's easier if we just create a square. So that's 24.9, and this is 11.3. So I'm going to create a polygon with size 24.9 and 11.3. 11.3. So it's exactly like we need it. We get it right here. And here it should be fairly easy. So segment sewing, we're going to segment this to this. We're going to segment this to this. Just make sure that this thing is not like creating any weird effects. There we go. And actually at that point, we can already like simulate just to get it into position. See the little square floating there. There we go. Let me just make sure that this thing's not, kind of looks like it's flipped. Is it flipped? It looks flipped. Okay, so that means that one of the anchor points is wrong. So it's probably this one. I'm gonna select the sewing, Control B, and let's redo it. There we go. Look at that. That looks really nice. And now, of course, we're gonna again segment sew, let's say this to this. Or actually, again, just to make it easier, sometimes 3D view is a little bit easier than 2D view. From this to this. There we go. So now if we do the effect, this is what we're gonna get. The whole thing is just gonna stick together and we're gonna have this very, very boxy sort of effect. How do we change this boxy effect to a round effect? Of course, we will need to grab this points right here, especially the ones on the corners, and change the curvature of the point to make it a rounder effect. But this is how we make a glove, as you can see right there, or this is how we can build a glove. Again, as I said in the beginning of the video or of this section, this is one of those assets that I would normally block in maybe here instead of ZBrush. ZBrush is marvelous, and then bring it into ZBrush and just like work with it a little bit more. Unless you want to spend like 8 hours, 10 hours working on this here on Marvelous and making sure it fits like perfectly, it's very easy to just bring it into ZBrush and fix all of these things like the curvatures and stuff. So I'm going to stop the video right here, guys. And in the next one, we're going to do more details. In the next one, I'm already going to have all of the elements right here. So I'm going to have all of the rest of the fingers ready. It's the same process. We're just going to be creating these boxes. The only thing that's going to be a little bit different is that this internal line right here that you see is going to be connected to the next box. Okay. Another thing that I'm going to do, and this is, again, a good note, is I'm going to go to this sections right here. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to split into uniform splits of 3. Hit OK. Why? Because I want to know exactly how much like fabric I'm going to give to each finger. Okay, that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure to get to this point and I'll see you back on the next one.